Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why am I even trying to be kind? Nobody else is. Because same. When the world just feels cruel, it's very tempting to match that energy and give it right back. But I know that's not the kind of person I want to become. So I wanted to talk to my mom about this, about what kindness might look like when the world just feels so harsh.
That's so right. That word harsh is exactly how it feels for a lot of us right now. And I, like you, sometimes feel like, oh my gosh, the struggle to be kind in the midst of everything is can be a daily struggle. So I think it is important to note that when people are having a hard time, they oftentimes give a hard time. And so I think we've often heard the phrase, hurt people. So people who are hurting themselves end up hurting others. And that's the case. When people are having a hard time internally themselves, it is much easier for them to then put that hard time out into the world. It's very difficult to regulate emotions. It's all well and good when things are going right in our days or things feel, wonderful. But when things around us are feeling that harshness and we are feeling just bombarded from every direction with cruelty and with difficult things, it becomes much harder. It takes a lot more of our just personal energy to regulate ourselves in the midst of very difficult things. And so it's just so easy to just put unkindness out there because genuinely things feel so unkind within ourselves.
That makes so much sense, Mom, what you're saying there. Um, and I found that when the world around me starts to feel so loud, I kind of come into myself. I often shut down or withdraw. And then I start to doubt whether being kind in this world even matters when it feels like, oh, it's just a small raindrop in the ocean of what seems just to be mean and cruel these days. And it's just so easy to put on your armor as you go out
Yeah.
into the world and just try to protect yourself, really. And often being kind can feel a little bit like being vulnerable out there.
That's so true because it's so real that when we are in these kind of stressful, difficult, very unkind, uncaring situations, that the cortisol levels within ourselves just rise, and we're kind of sitting with that stress, sitting with that kind of defensive posture, sitting with the real chemicals that have come up for us, and or it truly makes it hard to not, put on some armor and try to be in a fighting stance, or trying to be, in a way that now we're going to relay that harshness ourselves. And also, one of the things we know is that we humans, most of us are not all kind or all the way mean. Most of us are kind of have that both within us. And so to think about acting in kind ways as less of a maybe personality and more of like a regulation skill, that these are actually things we can practice and make stronger within ourselves. And so it really is a kind of a practice, a skill that has to be worked and used and worked again, you know, almost on a daily basis, to be able to maintain that steadiness within us. And one of the things we find is that it can then be contagious. When we put out kindness, it almost helps the next person lower their armor somewhat, such that they can maybe respond with a little more kindness themselves. And then that gives way to the next person being able to lower their armor as well. So sometimes we see that this kindness, responding in caring ways, can be a contagious thing.
I love that so much, Mom. And I really like also what you said about the fact that, the capacity for kindness or for hatred and ugliness exists in all of us, because I don't think anybody feels completely kind towards the world around us all the time. Everyone has those bad days and those bad moments. But the fact that it's not some intrinsic trait of like, oh, you're either a kind person, or you're either not. But that we have the ability to like practice that kindness, and like you said, it's something that we can work on. Just because we don't show up as our best selves in one moment doesn't mean that we can't in the next. And like you said, and then it can be contagious and make it that much easier for the next person.
That's so true. And there are actual steps that we can take that may be helpful in helping us regulate and respond in kind ways. And one of the things would be to really take care of ourselves and have boundaries and limit our exposure to the outrage, to the harshness, to the meanness. We just, it is kind of the water we swim in a lot of ways, but as much as possible, if you can limit your exposure to just the ongoing nature of it, that can be helpful to just take care of yourself with some of those boundaries about what you are willing to take in to your nervous system. And another piece that can be helpful is really thinking more in small ways that we can respond with kindness, oftentimes in small ways that really do matter. We don't have to think of some big heroics and big, majestic ways to respond in kindness. That sometimes it's easier to just a little bit of kindness is a little more doable. Maybe bringing the trash can in for your neighbor. Just little things of kindness can feel more manageable. And so again, it can kind of build on itself. So once we're doing a little bit of kindness, the next kind thing might feel a little easier after that. And then another thing that can be helpful is really slowing down our responses, kind of pausing and not feeling like we have to immediately react when we have encountered ugliness or meanness, but allowing ourselves to slow down how we respond, sometimes just dialing back the speed of response can give us time to regulate a little bit better, and so that we are more able to put out a different type of response rather than just more ugliness and harshness and meanness.
I really love all that, Mom. It's stuff that feels doable. And one other thing that I might add that could be helpful is, rather than being on the defensive side all the time, like taking everything as a personal attack, to actually try to stay curious rather than defensive. So if somebody says something to you that rubs you the wrong way and your immediate response is to lash back at them, maybe, like you said, take a pause, slow it down, and maybe even have the thought, why might they be feeling this way, or why might they be responding in that way? And even if it still doesn't make a whole lot of sense to you, it can just kind of relax your brain a little bit to think about it from a more curious, wondering perspective, rather than just immediately jump to some kind of counterattack or some kind of defense. And then there is one more thing that I think could be really good, to help us maintain that kindness. It's just to surround yourself with people that bring it out of you. I think you kind of said it earlier about, having boundaries with what you'll allow yourself to be exposed to and limiting that. And I think it goes the other way too, with making sure that you do bring in those people that lift you up and that make you feel like you want to be a better person. And, like you said, that contagious nature of you guys all being together, and people that you can be yourself around, people that you can be vulnerable around, and you can actually kind of let go of some of your armor, and you can bring out the softer side of yourself. So maybe even if that's just a phone call with somebody once a week, or maybe an in-person little hangout, getting coffee, It's important to have and maintain those relationships that bring out the kinder nature inside.
Oh, that is so good. Because, being kind in a harsh world, it's not naive, it's courageous. Making this world more kind for each other actually helps us humans make this world survivable. It's how we bring about goodness in the world, how we make this world an easier place to be in for us and our fellow humans.
And see, this is why I love talking to my mom. I love it. I love the perspective and the light that you bring. And so, watchers, I'm wondering what helps you feel grounded and maybe hold on to kindness when the world feels harsh? Please share in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Michelle. That's my mom, Ashley. Thank you so much for joining us for this Secular Sunday. We'd love if you hit that subscribe button, and we will connect again with you soon.